There we go again. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Pro Wrestling Inside Out. I'm Rodney West, along with Jack Lloyd, and we will be calling the action tonight. And we've got a lot to talk about. Jack, how you doing tonight?
Hanging in there.
Well, that's the way to do it. That's the way you got to be. Britt is out tonight. He is at the Ray County Fair, doing some let's say promotion at the Ray County Fair tonight. That's in Dayton, Tennessee. If anybody's out there, you can drop by. He'll be there. He's been in the rain all afternoon, and I
Tell
know
him
he's enjoyed that.
if you do go and you see him, tell him we're on here drinking and carrying on.
That's right. That's right. That's right. A lot of so Jack, what we got to talk about tonight?
All right, first let's hit our news of the day. Uh, the ratings. Raw dropped down slightly, but still at 1.956. SmackDown 2,093. NXT 649, which was a fairly decent increase for them. Dynamite was down to 938,000. So roughly a million more people watch Raw, just in case Tony Khan's looking at numbers. Rampage, 468,000. And then they had a special Battle of the Belts, which drew 437,000, the lowest Saturday night show they have ever done.
Well, I did see that. That's pretty. and
So,
and that's the third one of them. So it should have been gaining in popularity every
yeah,
year.
it's
Obviously,
it's
did
in
not.
it's going. I mean, I'm talking like I think it was over 200,000 drop in numbers.
There,
So
there seems to be a lot of discontent at AEW now.
yep,
I've seen
that
the
that
rumbles.
is another one of the notes I made. There's a lot of folks that are just uh, they're being kind of coy about it, but Miro has let it be known that he's frustrated with what's going on with him, and also Andrade El Idolo in the same boat. And if you like those guys, and I like both of them, when I watch the show, it just seems like they're never a part of it.
Right.
So I can understand their frustration, and if they're frustrated, you know that those fans has got to be.
Sure. Absolutely. And it's always they were always complaining while they were there, and now they're gone. They're probably wishing that they were back there. Now, this another story's come up with Tony Khan and being unprofessional. Have you seen this?
I did. I did.
And this would go in line with frustration, would you not say, when this kind of attitude starts?
Well, and I get it because he has obviously, as we say here in the South, he's overloaded his wagon, and you can't do everything. Now he's been forced to actually bring people into positions to help him, even though he has long maintained since day one that he was going to do it all. Well, one man can't run a major company like that, and as much as everybody wants to talk about Vince McMahon being WWE, Vince was the captain of the ship, but he had a lot of people that
Right.
he trusted to run parts of it so that he didn't have to do that. And Tony Khan is figuring that out. Supposedly, there was some kind of big blow up here with one of the major guys, and he had to run the guy down because he quit, and he had to apologize and try to make things right. And immediately after that story came out is when he started promoting people up into positions to help him.
Ah, well, my what I was understanding is that he's playing Vince McMahon on the headsets to the commentators.
Yep.
Now, question I have to ask you: if you're going to have to sit in a commentator's ear and tell them word for word what to say, what's the use to even having them?
There you go. Why don't you just move out there and do it yourself?
Exactly. I mean, I can you imagine sitting there yelling at Gordon while he was seriously? I mean, even
You can see Gordon doing this.
Yeah, well, he would lay the microphone down and come back. He said, "I cannot concentrate on what I'm doing and have to listen to your yelling at me in the headset." That's just outrageous, and that seems kindly unhinged to me. If you're sitting there yelling, and especially, I think that it was really bad at Ring of Honor during that pay per view thing that they did.
Yeah.
So it was quite interesting that some of the some of the things that happen, or some of the things that they accuse Vince of doing. Now Mr. Khan is taking up where he left off, or picking up where he left off.
Another bit of news I just read actually came from Dustin Rhodes. He says his understanding is that EW is looking at doing bigger arena shows. For maybe only 2 pay-per-views a year, but they want to do some major shows. I think All In, and I can't remember the other one. Tony Khan owns some kind of rugby team, I believe, over in um England or somewhere. But anyway, it's a 50,000 seat arena that they play in. He wants to run that. Well, while they're talking about doing this, he said uh, the intent is now, since WWE has led the way, to do it make it those events 2-day events, so that they can do fan fests and all this other stuff. Thank God for WWE, or Tony Khan wouldn't obviously have a clue as to which direction to go with his company. But
Unbelievable.
the thing is he has enough talent signed. He could do a 3-day event if you wanted to.
Sure,
But
absolutely.
that was one of the complaints, was that the pay-per-views run 4 hours or more, which is extremely long for a pay-per-view. It really is. I mean,
Now,
I want to get my money's worth, but I want to be conscious while I'm getting it.
is those AEW pay per views, or we were
Yeah,
talking about so, because
AEW.
I've never seen an AEW pay per view, so I'm not sure, but yeah, 4 hours seems to be extreme for sure. Is it just, does he have a lot of matches?
Yeah, yep, yep. He has a lot of matches, and I will hand it to him. There's actually more in ring. I'm reluctant to say wrestling. There's more in ring action going on their pay per views. So he is a little better than WWE up till now, although I think that may be changing. Uh, anyway, several people have been talking about WWE, and that Theory has been off.
I noticed
He's
that.
missed the last 2 shows. A lot of people were speculating that, well, he was Vince McMahon's guy, so they're keeping him off TV for right now. But the truth is he was a Triple H guy. Triple H was the guy who recruited and signed him to NXT. The thing is Theory's been off because he's had a death in the family, so he should be back hopefully in the next week or so. I think there's a lot of potential with that young man. I mean, he's in great shape. He's obviously a team player, and that's what you're looking for.
Well, you have to admit, the last Raw that he was on, he worked how many minutes? I mean, he did 2 matches, and I believe they went back to back. He was sweating like a streetwalker in church. I mean, we're talking. I mean, and he worked hard. I give it to him. I mean, they got his money. They got their money's worth out of him that night, particularly.
Yeah.
I noticed that.
And
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I just was going to say, just saw this just a little bit ago, right before I was getting ready to come in here. They have now added an additional $5 million at WWE of undisclosed payouts
Wow.
from Vince, which brings now the total up to $19.6 million. So every time you turn around, Vince is getting caught with his hand in the cookie jar. He must have a lot of cookie jars.
Yeah. Yeah.
John Laurinaitis, everyone's favorite here, but is officially gone from the company. PW Insider, Pro Wrestling Insider reported that today. They said it probably happened over the last week to 10 days, but they have kept it more or less on the down low. They didn't want to, WWE offices didn't want to make a big deal out of it. But he is officially out of the company.
He is toast, as it
Toast.
says. Yes.
And no, there's no butter.
No,
No butter
he's
on that toast.
finished. He's finished. I noticed that the drum beat against Triple H and Stephanie has started. Have you noticed this?
Yes. Yes.
It only take a minute. It would only take him. How long will it take for the fans and everybody to turn on Triple H? And then it is now now it is beginning already. Already they're talking about how Stephanie was heavily criticized for her performance in the partnerships and the sales and all that good stuff. And now Triple H is also they're beginning to criticize him because now they're doing a lot of parking lot stuff. And apparently on NXT, did they do a lot of parking lot incidents?
They do, but those things played out well. And of course now at NXT, they didn't have a lot of room backstage. So, you make use of what you have.
Wow. Wow. Well, I noticed that now the criticism is beginning. It won't be long. It's about 3 months, and then everybody will be thinking of him like they do Vince McMahon. Because
there's no winning. I would like to note that Triple H has already started. He's reversed the policy about saying wrestlers and pro wrestling. You can now say that on air. And one thing I noticed last night that really stood out, and I really appreciated this, was how Ciampa paid tribute to Harley Race. By not only did they do a segment, about how he had trained and learned from Harley, but he came out wearing Harley's original robe that Harley used to wear, the red and blue one, and had matching gear made to go with that. Had a tremendous match. I was hoping he was going to win, and I like Bobby Lashley, but I really like Ciampa. Glad to see him, and I think that shows the new era of Triple H is that he's willing to build these guys.
And I thought it was an excellent touch with the build up, the dedication, the robe, the whole thing. Not to win this time, I thought was important because I think it telegraphed. And the robe was an Olivia original, by the way. That was one of her fine works of art out there. And I remember that robe distinctly. I remember Harley's robe.
A&E biography on Sunday nights. They've been doing several great biographies. They've done Goldberg, Bret Hart, Kurt Angle. Seems like there's been one more. Last night was Lex Luger. And I just have to tell you that all of them have been excellent. I've never made a secret how much I really don't care for Lex Luger, but that was an excellent biography on him last night. And, maybe it changed my thinking about him a little bit. I will never like him when I met him. Now, what he's become, I've eased up on that a little bit, I guess. But I highly recommend that. And my last bit of news was, of course, the internet was aflame because Ric Flair posted that he was going to be in Puerto Rico over the weekend. And everybody was carrying on. Oh, see, he's already lied. He's already back in the ring. He wasn't in the ring. He was in the corner. He was managing his son-in-law, Andrade. There was a physical sequence between he and Carlos Colon. They actually, I think, pushed Carlos out of the retirement home and got him to ringside. And the crowd loved it when they started throwing some punches. Not the best punches in the world, but they had its desired effect. So, people loved it. At the end of the day, people still love their legends. They understand they're not going to be able to do what they did 20 years ago.
It was good seeing them.
It was.
Speaking of crowds, I'm not sure what anybody was saying about the crowd at the Ric Flair Memorial Extravaganza that they just had in Nashville, but there was nothing wrong with that crowd. I would have
Mhm.
loved to have that crowd. It was awesome, absolutely awesome.
90. Hold on just a minute. I did I did save all that. Uh, Ric Flair's last match did 448,000 gate.
Wow.
That was the gate. 6,800, I believe, was the 6,800 fans turned out. Uh, so heck of a crowd. Now this does not include the pay-per-views buys, which they estimate at a minimum of 20,000, closer to 25,000. But a lot of people are still ordering it now, so they may top 30 to 40,000 people. So at $40 or no, $35 a pop, that's a pretty good chunk of change. I
Yeah.
mean, you're closing in on that $1 million mark. And that, besides AEW, when they did their first All In, and this was before AEW was actually a thing. I think this was just the Super Kick Twins and Cody Rhodes and a few others that went in together, to run this promotion or run this show. That is the highest grossing, but the Ric Flair is the second highest grossing independent show in history.
Wow.
So take
And
that.
and what I saw of it, I only saw the introductions. I noticed he had a white robe. Flair came with a white robe. Was that one of the originals?
No, no, he had that made. They actually done a whole
Well,
video series on getting that made.
Well, my mother was seeing saw that the robe, and she said, it really didn't look as good. I said, well, Olivia would did not. You once you've seen hers, everything else is it's not quite as good, and we've seen that over and over again. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the because one of the other subjects is covered by the insider. So let's go to our insiders right now. Let's say hello to Richard Hood. Good evening. Glenn Allen Shelton's with us. I got that. Mickey Mayfield, what's up? Wendy Harkins is with us tonight, as well as Charles Alford. And then we also have our Alfred. Hello, guys. Have a great show. That's David Bice. Glenn Allen Shelton. Oh, we got Glenn Shelton and Glenn Allen Shelton on it. Jason Monday's with us tonight. Hello, Jason. Thank you for joining us. And happy birthday to Alexa Bliss from Glenn Allen Shelton. Excellent. David Bice, seen 3 great shows this past weekend. Tell
I
us,
was
where
I was
were
going to
those at?
mention that David had posted about them.
Oh, wow. Charles Bellflower, overloaded the wagon. My grandmother used to say that.
That's right. I got it from my grandmother.
Dr. Philbo Grice is with us tonight, as well as Adrian Harper. Gordon Soley was the best ever. Yeah,
Amen.
he was the class act. And I cannot imagine headphones. I mean, I've seen Gordon with headphones on, but I would never imagine somebody sitting in the back yelling at Gordon. I just it wouldn't have happened. Even Charlie Platt is not going to happen with him either. I just tell you that much right now. Wendy Harkins commentary is better when they don't have someone sitting in their ear. Absolutely, they can concentrate on what's going on for sure.
And I'd never, we've long heard about, what the announcers had to go through up there, but I've never understood that. I mean, if you don't trust your people enough to give them the rundown sheets and tell them what you're looking for and let them go and do their jobs, why have you got them out there?
It's true. And
just keep going through people just like you do wrestlers up there under Vince, till you find something you like and then stick with it.
David Bice, Jack Lord, country.
Heck yeah.
Glenn Allen Shelton. I'm wondering when Daddy says enough football starting soon. True. It's coming.
Well, they may lose their TV deals before Daddy gets fed up.
Could very well happen.
I mean,
Warner.
I'm this close to canceling my HBO subscription because they're canceling everything.
Well, Warner Discovery apparently going to be cutting 5,000 jobs. That's a lot. That's a lot. And also, I mean, they've canceled movies. I understand the movie wasn't going to be good anyway. They've had to. They did some pre-screenings. It didn't go over well. Um, and then I guess they cut out one of the Scooby Doo movies as well.
Yeah.
Mickey Mayfield, Gordon, we've put would have put his cigar out on your chest. Your dad, he would. He would put up with it. I can tell you if you're there yelling, he would have first pulled it out, and then when it went to commercial, he'd have been in the back saying, "Hey, I can't do this. You either let me do my job, or you come out here with a microphone and you do it yourself." Daniel Lang, go ahead. You going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, I worked on several Continental shows when Gordon was still there, and I never got to talk to him backstage because when Gordon came in, he would go straight in the office and they would sit down and they would go over what needed to be pushed that night, and then he would stay there going over whatever he needed, and then go straight to the podium. And then, of course, as soon as the show was over with, he was out the door because
Sure.
didn't he fly back?
Yeah,
Down
that
to Florida?
night. Yeah, very rare. Daniel Lang, you guys finally got rid of the low hanging fruit. Just kidding, Brent. uh, Todd Vanderpool is with us from Cocoa Beach. We've got Victor Nash, the legend Victor Nash. Stuart Camp, looking forward to September 12th. Awesome times to be a subscriber. Mickey Mayfield, what number are we on this week? We are on
15.
number 15. 15. Let's go on through and get some of the other comments, but we'll get to our top 25 tag teams in just a second. Victor Nash. Oh, hello to Michael Barr. Todd Vanderpool, is JR related to Animal of the LOD?
Yeah, brothers.
Randy Christ. Do you guys think Triple H will bring back a lot of stars Vince released?
Well, yeah, yes and no. Triple H, I think, is going to bring back the talent that he helped develop in NXT that got cut. Now, surely, a lot of them have gone on. They're under contract with AEW, whatever, so they're not going to be available. So you won't get everybody. But I, read a report that supposedly Bray Wyatt has re-signed with the company. So, Triple H has I think, a bigger understanding of what fans are looking for than what Vince did.
Well, and as far as Bray Wyatt, he hasn't been seen anywhere.
No,
and I have been suspicious about that the entire time because you would have thought just right off of TV he would be somewhere.
Well,
and he just never shown up.
I read a story here a while back, and we may have talked about it on here. I don't remember, but he was averaging over $4 million a year working for WWE, and he took care of his money. He did not have to come back to wrestling. He still doesn't. He loves the business, but he can afford to be particular. Now, AEW is not going to pay him $4 million a year. So it was in his best interest to just sit around and wait. And from the few pictures that I've seen of fans catching him out in public on occasion, he's dropped a lot of weight, got in tremendous shape. I think we're going to see a great character return if indeed they've brought him back, and I hope they have.
And it was like I said, it was strange not to see him really anywhere. And with what you just explained, with the loss of the weight and everything, I believe that was part of the deal to give him time off so he can actually concentrate on those improvements. James Brown, evening, gentlemen. My question for both of you: taking out Roman Reigns, who would you have to face? Who would you have to be the face of the company?
I, what you read on the internet and what I think too, I believe that Karrion Kross who just came back at the tail end of SmackDown the other night. I'm a huge fan. Got his shirt on now, by the way. Uh, I think he is going to be a major player. Uh, he's a Triple H guy. Triple H brought him in to NXT and pushed him to the moon. And of course, we all know what happened when Vince got a hold of him. But he's been gone almost a year. So, I think he has the potential to be huge for him. And of course, Cody Rhodes, I believe I believe Cody is going to be your top baby face, no matter what brand he's on. As far as the company, I think Cody's going to be that guy.
Excellent. Excellent. I still like Bobby Lashley. I think
Yep,
he is the epitome of what you want as a champion and as the certainly a spokesman and the image that you want to portray
I agree.
as a star for sure. Let's go down. Okay, here we go. We got our first number 15 is from James Brown. He's got the Von Brauners. The Von Brauners. I never, I can just barely um, remember Gentleman Saul Weingroff. Do you have any memories of Saul?
That's what I grew up watching. Out of Chattanooga, and yeah, I remember the kind of heat that Saul would generate just walking out. He didn't have to say anything. People hated his guts as soon as he started going over, to the commentary desk or grab a microphone or just walk into the ring with whoever he was with. The Von Brauners, I do remember them just as being a, down and dirty tag team, which was exactly what they were
and
supposed to be.
and Drew everywhere they went. We're talking
Now,
about record breakers.
yes. Now I only met Saul one time, uh, and this was after he had retired. Some guys had talked Nick into coming in and helping him do a show over in Huntsville that I got booked on. And Saul was there. Extremely nice gentleman. He handled the money payoffs for everybody that night. Very, very nice. Of course, Nick was too. I don't have I only have one experience with Nick, and it was a good one. So, uh, but yeah, Saul was he was everything he was supposed to be.
Dad has some great stories of him being handcuffed to the bear. He would sit out there with popcorn and feed popcorn to the bear the entire time.
There is a page on Facebook dedicated to Saul Reingroff. If y'all want to look it up, his son runs that.
Well, in fact, still here in the Chattanooga area, one of the, of course, Tojo Yamamoto, Harry Thornton, Jackie Fargo, but Gentleman Saul also comes up on various occasions. Let's go ahead and since he's already given us James Brown gave us his first his 15. Let's go ahead and do our 15th tag team. Jack, who you got for tonight?
I have the very famous brothers, Terry and Dory Jr., the Funks.
The Funk Brothers, great tag team, no doubt about it. And you think about it, and I've said it before. Two guys that really, uh, after they lost the world titles, actually become bigger stars. It was absolutely amazing, and it's a testament to their abilities and then to their expertise in the ring. My number 15 tonight, Ted and Jerry Oates. What a great team. Absolutely great team. And I mean, they were like poetry in motion, let's just say. Glenn Allen Shelton, go ahead and get your 15th, whatever your 15th is, insiders, and we'll get them on tonight. Glenn Allen Shelton, was there any comedy on Raw like before?
No, 2 weeks in a row that there's no comedy, no. Now the 24/7 champ was on. Can't even think of her name off the top of my head, but she
Brooke.
was in a tag match.
Dana Brooks. And yes, they,
Yep.
they started the tag team tournament for the women's titles, and I understand it's a possibility that Naomi and Sasha Banks is going to be returning as well. Here's another question that we talked about before we come on the air. Wendy Harkin, I read that USA Network is wanting the WWE to crown an interim heavyweight champion. Anyone else see that?
Yes, we'd actually discussed that right before we came on the air. Um, That's not going to happen. I believe that they're going to split those belts back up. Uh, that Roman has both of them. I think they're going to probably before the end of the year. Somebody's going to take at least one of those belts. So, and of course, now the big match for WrestleMania is still slated to be, as long as his schedule is open, The Rock versus Roman Reigns. But it doesn't necessarily mean that those titles are going to be on the line.
Sure, absolutely. Uh, to me, once they've been kind of put together, it would seem to, and then maybe that's what USA is alluding to by what Wendy's talking about, a new title, because it's not saying those titles would actually split, but a new heavyweight champion for that. I think honestly, in my opinion, they already have it. They just don't know it with the United States title. I mean, don't USA Network, United States champion kind of go together?
Well, they do, but under Vince, the USA, the U.S. title and the Intercontinental title have just they've not been important
No,
for a
no
long,
value.
long time.
Yeah.
They haven't been important. And I was watching the Bret Hart biography, and he talked about how during his time period, the Intercontinental belt was the worker's belt. That was the wrestler. That was the guy who could get in there and perform actually pro wrestling, tell the stories. They left the world title for more of the cartoon stuff, with Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior and guys like that. Whereas the Intercontinental Champion meant something because he was the last vestige of pro wrestling there. And I think, obviously, from the way that they're building, that they're going back to that. Now, we've already got Gunther as the Intercontinental Champion, and that guy is a pro wrestling machine. I have been a fan of his since the first time I watched him in NXT UK and some other promotions over there. So if they move the US belt to that, you're going to have some strong championships.
I have to say though, if you're going to, and to me, I think they should make importance that make a new focus on them. I think they should start by new designs for the belts. I'm not too keen on either one at this point. When I first saw them, I thought, okay, it's all right, but kind of cartoonish, both of them actually. Uh,
Well, everything that they do as far as those titles, they go through uh, people who know how to sell stuff to kids. So those are eye catching for kids. They don't mean anything for adults per se, but that's everything that they're doing is they're marketing to sell merchandise.
well, for the second week in a row, they did that montage of the history of the United States Championship, and that's the reason I'm thinking. And in fact, they need to do the similar thing with the Intercontinental title as well, and that's the reason I'm thinking they're going to start focusing on those championships, and in which, as we know, they've been worthless. They haven't been. They just been a thing for somebody to carry out.
Now, of course, they even showed the picture, and I was kind of surprised of the old um, U.S. belt where it was just the outline of the United States. Which by hand in hand here is the current look of the NWA title for NWA wrestling again, and I love that old school look to it. Which and if I haven't talked about NWA in a long time on here because I haven't been watching it for almost 2 years now. I mean, they were off for a long time, so that got me off track. They started back on. I kept forgetting to go tune into them, but I watched probably 4 episodes of the most current episode yesterday. And our complaint, all of us, the three of us on here that watched it, was that they did comedy on there. And that turned us off because if they were going for that old school attitude, they missed the mark with that. They don't do the comedy, not on the episodes that I've been watching. It's been very good. Their production quality is not quite, up what you're used to as far as AEW and WWE, but that studio setting that they do, they're filming in Nashville. and I think they've captured it. Now that they've gotten away from the comedy, I mean, you've got a few characters that you can you kind of ha ha at just a little bit, but they're not doing funny stuff. They're just odd characters. Uh,
Is the studio set up the same as what they were doing in Georgia, or is it different?
it really has more of the old Georgia
TBS studio.
Championship, yeah, TBS
Yeah,
studio look.
excellent. Yeah, I
I
I'll
really
have to
like
check
it.
it
I
out.
really, if you haven't watched it, watch it. And I'll say this: they're working right now a program called Race to the Chase. The end of this month, they're doing a 2 day pay per view. Actually, they're going to be there several days. They're taping TV while they're there too, but they're going to be at the Chase. You know, historic
Yes,
wrestling venue. They're going back. They This is going to be the 74th anniversary. Is where they're going. Is why they're going back for this. Their pay per views run, I think it's $29.95 per pay per view, but they have a deal for $49.99 per year, and you get to watch every pay per view that they do. Plus, you get their current shows. I think 3 to 4 days in advance of when they actually drop on YouTube. And I'm fixing to subscribe to it because that pay per view is coming up the end of this month, and they've got some good stuff lined up on there.
excellent.
So anyway,
David
there's
Vice,
your NWA plug.
and I'll have to check it out for sure because just by what you said makes me want to see it because you're right. Soon as I didn't last when the last time I watched it, I think I didn't last 3 minutes and I cut it off.
I guess your one drawback could be Austin Idol on commentary sometimes, but he's not doing it all the time. So
Yeah. Well,
maybe
his commentary wasn't bad, actually.
it's not bad.
His
It's not bad.
commentary was quite good. He knew how to get stuff over. That's the main thing. Just his working ability in the ring was what we were questioning. David Vice seen a video of AEW. Too much cursing for me.
Yeah, and I've discussed on here often how much my 12-year-old daughter has got to where she loves wrestling, and I can bring her in and watch WWE, especially now, and she loves it. But I don't let her watch AEW with me. You know,
Well,
if she's here when it's on, a lot of times I'll just record it and watch it later. But it offends me too, David. It offends me too because there's no sense in it.
Charles
It's
Offman.
just like John Moxley bleeding in every match.
That's when you have nothing, when your characters are weak, or I'm going to say your talent is not over. Let me put it that way. Your talent is not over. You're using gimmicks such as blood and guts. You're aiming for the lowest common denominator, and it goes nowhere. It goes nowhere. I got a better idea. Just throw a cage match in every match. That'll help you.
Well,
Charles,
he had a match the other night, and I swear they weren't a minute into it. He was already bleeding for no reason. I think he's ribbing everybody. I really do.
Charles offered. It didn't look good at all. Cologne and Flair. Oh boy, let's go. Jason Monday, Cologne and Flower look like George Jefferson and Archie Bunker.
But point is, did you hear that crowd when Cologne blocked that punch? Even though you could just about run to the concession stand and get a drink and get back from the time he drew back to the time he got there. Uh, that crowd exploded though. That's what it was about.
That's the key. That's the key. And again, you don't have to do much if you're what? If you're over. Jeff Dobes. You mean you don't care for Lex Luger like Rodney does like Flair? Ric Flair? Just trying to clarify for a friend.
Well, let me explain. I I never thought Lex was a great wrestler, but he deserved the positions and the pushes that he received. Now behind the scenes, I, I didn't care for him. I had several run-ins with him. Uh, I run into him at a independent show, even after his spinal stroke, and said some words that his mama would have blushed over to him because of the attitude that he had. Uh, he has been saved. He really has changed his life. That came through very clearly in that show last night. I never held animosity towards him for anything. I just didn't care for him. But there's a lot of people I don't care for. But that I highly recommend that biography. If you didn't record it, if you've got on demand, it is well worth the watch.
Donnie, Hester, anyone, another awesome Tuesday night with some great folks. Thank you very much. Kirk Searcy. Good evening, guys. Have you heard about the series coming to Vice called Tales of the Territories?
I have. That's the one that The Rock is doing. I believe the $7 promotion that he owns is producers for that. I hope that they will actually stick to the truth of the territories and
That's
not,
what that's what I was. That was
yeah,
what
not the highly fictionalized Young Rock series, which I enjoy that series, by the way. I'm not knocking that because you know going in that it's not to the letter perfect. But Rock is one of the few major stars that's come out that has that relationship through generations of the territory days. So I think his objective to bring honor to his family will hopefully see that it's presented in the way that it should be.
go Charles Alfred leg slap super kick twins.
Okay.
Hey, I've seen some leg slapping starting up again on the WWE. I hope they're not going to be going full blown on that. That'll, of course, when you're fast forwarding it, it doesn't matter. Okay, Daniel Lang recently saw Jerry Briscoe's last match. It was him literally lighting a match.
A long match. He was very critical of Ric Flair's last match.
Dennis Mitchell, great show as always. Thanks so much there, Dennis. Oh, Mako. Here he is. Number 15 is Harlem Heat. And I saw Stevie Ray was wanting to do a final match with he and Booker T. I say let's do it.
Booker T said absolutely not.
Oh,
So I don't know if there's some issue between the two of them. That's pure speculation on my part. I have no idea. But I know Booker T worked the match on because he owns. Gosh, I can't remember the name of that promotion that he has in Texas now, but it's a very good promotion. And he wrestled just a few weeks ago. So it's not like he's fully retired. He physically was in great shape. For all intent and purposes, they could do the tag match, but he said absolutely no way. He was done an interview just a day or two ago about that.
wow. Glenn Alice Shelton. Speaking of a tag match, we'll talk about another one that's another person wants to talk about. We'll talk about that in a minute. Glenn Allen Shelton, the next anniversary show is going to be in St. Louis, Missouri, NWA. Dennis Mitchell. Also, how will Triple H will manage be different from Vince McMahon within 6 months? That's
Well, I
exactly
think
what I
we've
was
already
talking about, Glenn.
seen that he has started giving more freedom. He's listening. He made the statement of it's going to take all of us to make this work. That he said I can't do it the way Vince did it. Where Vince did everything basically or had his thumb on everything. He doesn't want to do that. He wants to be able to concentrate on creative and building those folks and not all the stuff that goes on around. So he wants talent of course, you have to schedule time with him, but to schedule time with him where you can sit down and he can hear your ideas. Because I have found, we all have, that talent knows how to get themselves over, usually. Your problem comes is that a lot of times they don't understand how to get the other person over. It's
Well,
easy to get yourself over, but you got to take care of who you're in there with too. And that's where you've got to have a management style of being able to say, okay, that's a great idea, but we need to tweak this where, this guy don't look bad making you look good, where you can both make, you got to make that compromise.
sure.
But great ideas out
and anytime you if a wrestler has an idea, but they don't know how to work it in, that's where you come in and you're able to put their idea and mesh it in with the whole group. And that way, when they go out there, they're putting 100% because they want to see their stuff get over for sure. And like I said, in 6 months, Triple H will be Vince McMahon. He'll be just as hated as he is. James Brown, Rodney, Daddy said sell. Okay. Glenn, Alan Shelton. Number 15, the Brain Busters, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, along with their manager, of course, Bobby the Brain. Mickey Mayfield. My number 15 is Ole Anderson and Buzz Sawyer. For a minute, the World Tag Team Champions never won the belt, just Ole handed Buzz the other belt because Stan had gone off to Japan, I think is what Dr. Philbo Grice, I'm curious. WWE is publicly traded and Vince failed in his fiduciary responsibility. Do you think he will face criminal charges?
there. It's possible. And this is one of the other things that was brought up where, there's a lot of speculation that's been going on the internet about Vince still pulling the strings behind the scenes. And they pointed out how that could bring federal charges if he is in any way involved at this point. So Vince is sitting at home, I guess, but he's collecting his money off being an owner, but he has nothing to do with the company. They said he's not even going to the company gym anymore.
Well, he's got the money; he can build his own.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he's got gyms everywhere.
He can put it in the strip bar he's opening. Glenn Allen Shelton, Cross and Scarlett on SmackDown. Vince cut.
Yep.
Jason Monday, number 15 for him. Adrian Adonis and Dick Murdoch.
Very good.
They were awesome. They were awesome.
That was my favorite version of Adrian Adonis.
I'm telling you, it was super team. James Dobbs, number 23. Worst tag team of all time. Lex Luger and Ric Flair from the Four Horsemen of the New Apocalypse.
And they talk. Even Ric Flair talked about the first time he wrestled Lex Luger when he went to Florida, and they were pushing Lex, and they had billed it for a 1 hour time limit drop. That's what they wanted.
Woo!
And he said, "You have never worked as hard in your life as when you've tried to take a green guy for an hour." Now Flair could do that. Not many people could, but But he said, right as much as he struggled to get through that match, the first thing he did when he got back to Jimmy Crockett was say, "Hey, there's this kid down there in Florida you need to take a look at." He saw that potential in Luger.
Number 15 for David Vise is Jackie and Don Fargo.
There you go.
Richard Hood, number 15, the Zambui Express. Oh, yeah. There was something else. We've got number 15 for Charles Belfort, Nikolai Volkov, and the Iron Sheik. Another good one. Right in the same era, really, as Murdoch and Adonis, for sure.
Sheiky baby. I love
Wendy Harkins, Lord Humongous, and Shane Douglas. Pretty decent. Jason Dobbs, number 15. Fabulous Freebirds, Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy version. Okay. Would have had them. I don't know.
Of course, I love Freebirds. They're much higher up on my list.
Well,
but I liked all three of them.
I want him. I would like a recount on Jeff. I need a recount on that because I think that you've got them in the wrong position. Maybe number 5, but 15. Okay. Number Victor Nash. My number 15 is Greg Valentine and Rodney's favorite Terry Taylor. Victor, where? I mean, I hate to. I mean, but where did they team at? Where did
I
they
was going to
team?
say
Just
I don't remember him tagging again.
don't remember.
Of course, I've always turned off Terry Taylor matches. So.
Oh, here's another one. Glenn Allen. I'm going to have to ask for a recount again. 14 for me, the Freebirds, Gordy and Hayes. Number 30 would be Hayes and Garvin.
Now, I did not dislike Hayes and Garvin, but they were not the original Freebirds.
They were a comedy.
And,
Where am I right?
yes.
They
Yes.
were comedy, and that's and the Freebirds were really not. Never, especially when that first time in Georgia when they came out and that first appearance of Hayes, Gordy, and Roberts and Michael Hayes. Classic interview, just brilliant. Michael Rollerson, number 15 is Greg Valentine and Ric Flair. Tremendous team. A number for Donnie Hester. Number 15, Terry and Ted and Jerry Oates. Great guys, sure are. Dennis Mitchell, what are your memories of Oki Shakira? Did I say that right? Shakira. I don't have any. I'm sorry. I don't remember him. Glenn Allen Shelton. Dana Brooke was who you were talking about earlier. Here we go. Victor Nash. Man, what a United States title match last night between Lashley.
That was excellent match.
It was, yeah, and I think everybody really, and I think everybody thought he was going to win it.
Yep.
And I think it would have been absolutely the wrong thing to do for that particular evening. I think that's something else. I want to talk. I got another subject I want to talk about before we get out of here today as well. Adrian Harper Jr. I love the TV title when they had to defend it every week. Arn Anderson was an Austin champion. He absolutely was.
Yep.
You have to admit though, think about with when Georgia Championship Wrestling or when the Crockett's came in. I mean, before that, the TV champion meant something. The heavyweight champion meant something. The tag team champions meant something. And today, really, can we say the same about any organization, about their titles really meaning something? And it comes down to really who owns them. And Arn Anderson was a tremendous champion. You remember he stole the belt? Remember that? He stole the belt from Dusty. Charles Hughes, evening, guys. Sorry, I'm still at work. Late day today. Hope you guys are well this week. Hey guys, and if you are not, if you're not here live on the show, put your number 15 down in the comments, and we'll make sure we get them on. Richard Hood, I like the old school NWA belt too. Yeah, it certainly is. It's a classic look, and I absolutely know when Flair had to redesign the belt. I was not for that at all. Period. I was not for it. I enjoyed looking at it, but actually, he wanted a bigger belt. I get that, and he should take the same design and made it bigger. That's my opinion, because there was history in that belt.
Yeah, and I absolutely 100% agree with you. Now I love the big gold belt. I just wish I didn't like it being the NWA World's Champions belt though.
It's true. Absolutely true. Victor Nash, Nikita Lyons in her red, white, and blue on NXT right now.
I will be patriotic and watch that when we get out.
Richard Hood, I love studio setting. Richard, have you had the opportunity to see the new NWA show that Jack was talking about? Glenn Allen Shelton agreed. Prettiest belts. Out. Mickey Mayfield, Harley's 10 pounds of gold was the best championship belt. Yeah, it was beautiful.
Great.
Beautiful belt. Beautiful belt. Especially if you take what the belt that Dory Funk and Harley held, and then they had the new design. I think Jack Briscoe was the first
Jack
one.
Briscoe was the first with the new design, and it was the leather was red and considerably. Leather was wider than what the plates were, but still, absolutely, to me, to this day, that signifies a world champion.
My number 18 is Ray Stevens and Nick Bockwinkel. Let me see. I have it on as well. Mine was number 17. Nick Bockwinkel and Ray
Can't
Stevens.
remember if I put them on my list, but I may have to redo my list.
Oh boy, if I'm telling you, what a team. And if you want to see what being over really looks like, check out the match. Dick the Bruiser and the Crusher against Nick Bockwinkel and Ray Stevens.
I
It will
actually
show
had
you.
Pat Patterson and Ray Stevens as number 19.
Glenn Allen Shelton, no need to curse in wrestling. What was great, clean? Yeah, absolutely.
There
I
you
will
go.
eventually spit it out.
There you go. The most serious wrestling angles ever happened, when we were watching 70s, early 80s. Nobody cussed. They didn't have to. They had that intensity. They had people believing in them.
And you could read between the lines with the emotion that the
Yep.
wrestlers used. And we all knew what would happen if you did. I think it was Les Thatcher told me in one of the, maybe it was on this program or that interview. And if you haven't seen the interview with Les Thatcher, you need to check it out, in which we were talking about all the TVs that was done in the Carolinas. And of course, Les did commentary on some of them. And they had a show, I believe it was in Roanoke, live TV show. And Boris Malenko got on there with a chicken and wrung its neck, and they got canceled. They were no longer a live TV show. Roanoke. If you haven't seen the full interview, check it out. It's a tremendous interview with Les Thatcher. He had so much information, and that was one of the stories he told. It was, and I'm thinking, oh, I wouldn't, Mr. Malenko wouldn't have had to worry about it because he wouldn't have been back on the show again. I would have had to ask, what do you got that chicken here for? What are you going to do? What are you going to do with that? There's a time. There is time. Too much color. Yeah, there is absolutely right. It's like anything else. If you overdo a chair, you run somebody into steps. It just goes too much. Overdoing something for sure. Glenn Allen Sheldon Moxley did all hardcore in his past. Okay.
He did, and that's what they build on. But that still doesn't mean that you bleed in every single match that you have, because it doesn't mean anything.
Randy Chris is Vice bringing back Dark Side of the Ring.
It's on hiatus. They are going to be bringing it back, but they've been concentrating on some more stuff that they're doing, like the territory show that's coming, the biography shows, the WWE Rival series that is on right now. They've got a lot of stuff that's coming on Sunday nights now.
Wow. Here we go. Eddie Dale wants to talk about MLW.
Major League Wrestling. I am behind on that too. And I need to catch up. My only complaint was the language on there, just like AEW. But I thought the wrestling was much better.
My question, and maybe some of the insiders would know, why? Why are they doing?
Everybody's wanting to be edgy now. It's the thing to do.
Well, I've always felt that, and everything has its place. There's always exception to every rule, but I always felt that people who did that lack creativity, lack ability to speak, to say what you wanted to say without in other words. And of course, when we were growing up, all we had was the very best. I mean, think about it. I basically we saw a lot of Nick Gould's stuff, and he had really, when you go back and look at it, was really good stuff. But Georgia Championship Wrestling had the who's who of wrestling that came through there. I mean, only the best. Jim Barnett, only really. I mean, there are some exceptions to that as well. Bruiser Bob Sweetan and Mike George, but we'll not talk about that now. But honestly, it's not that they were bad. It's just who they were following. The superstar, King Kong Mosca. I mean, think about it. King Kong Mosca could talk. I mean, he could talk, and he could back it up too. Awesome.
I like Sweetan, but I only liked him in the first or second match. Well, because he did not have the charisma or personality to be later on in the card to me.
Well, when you go and look at what they did with him in San Antonio, it was awesome. Yeah. I mean, Bob Sweetan was awesome, but in Georgia, was it going to work? And the fact of the matter was, Idol was going to be, he was causing trouble again. And so they were going to give him the axe, and they were going to put Bob Sweetan in his spot. And they were talking about it, and they said they didn't think that he would work out. And I'm not. It doesn't take away from Bob Sweetan. Bob Sweetan's fine, but there's certain people who can get over in certain areas, and Bob Sweetan just
Yeah,
probably couldn't.
Mike
And
George in Central States was a huge star, but he
sure,
was
absolutely,
very, very vanilla.
yeah, yeah. James Brown, Vince still owns a lot of WWE stock. Yeah, he
He
certainly
owned
does.
81%.
Yeah. Wonder who gets that in the event of his departure.
I'm sure Linda and the kids.
Donnie Donnie Hester. Hey, RH. Well, okay. Well, here we go. All right, here we go. Here we go. Christopher Hughes, I think, is might be on me, and he may be on the same page. Freebirds 15. Yeah. Okay. Christopher Hughes, Hayes, Bam Bam, and Buddy Jack will definitely be in my top 5 where they belong. All right. Well, we will see where they fall up on mine. Do you remember Murder Row, Gulf Coast Promotions, Duke Millard Wrestling, and Wrestling, the Wrestling Pro, and then of course Gorgeous George Jr. You remember? I don't remember Murder Row, Gulf Coast. That was one of the Dad's first times that he worked. And if you all you have to do is go into the Dothan area, go into Mobile. Everybody talks about Gulf Coast. It's just tremendous. Duke Miller. Do you remember Duke? It seems like his name's familiar to me.
I remember the name.
And the
I've
rest
never seen
and
him.
the Wrestling Pro again, big in the Gulf Coast, and gorgeous
I
George Jr.
wrestled Wrestling Pro in his last match. He had been retired for a few years, came back. We were doing a TV out of Montgomery, and he came back to wrestle. I wrestled him on that show. His last match he ever had. I was that bad.
Richard Hood, Arn Anderson was good in the ring and on the mic. He had a look of a wrestler. Absolutely.
Had it, and if he had not been an integral part of the Four Horsemen, if you wanted to rewrite history, and if there were no Four Horsemen, Arn Anderson should have been world champion. He had everything it took. Everything.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you go, oh, hindsight's 2020, as they say, and I agree with you. I'm not sure if it was a good idea to take your 4 top people and put them together like that, especially in the end with Flair kind of being the
Well,
top.
if they had ever gone to the point of splitting them up and letting them go against each other, that would have been box office. I really do. But they just kept them together too long, I think, and then
And
kept
too
trying
many
to,
different members.
yeah, to trying to reinvent them too much. By the time uh, Turner sold out and they were still trying to do the stuff, they should have just pushed that away and never looked at it again.
And sure, and I mean, think about it. Arn Anderson, like we were talking about, could have easily have led the company, no doubt. But they keep going with the same old, same old. And in the case where we're talking about, where what was it, Paul
Roma.
Roma, and they
Well, and
did that whole
let's
thing.
not
That was a
forget,
disaster.
God bless him. I know he's in terrible health, but Mongo McMichael, when they brought him into the group, I thought, that's it. They have
Yeah,
effectively
they have
killed it.
jumped the shark for
Like
sure.
I say, likable guy. I actually enjoyed him on commentary because he seemed like he was actually a fan of what was going on, and you got that enthusiasm, and it, hyped you up listening to him. But as a professional wrestler, he was the worst I have ever seen.
Yeah, it was. I don't. I never could understand that when you had that kind of talent, and the fact I believe in the end, Arn's connection with Flair did not allow for him to go that next level, to the level of
Yeah,
superstar that he should have. And I'm
exactly.
not. I don't take away from his career. He was awesome when he first
Exceptional.
started. Not so much,
I
but I
believe
can.
on our top 100 list, I believe I put Arn farther down on the list than I did Ric Flair.
Yes, yes, I believe he's. I think Arn made my list, and the other person did not. Uh, Glenn Allen Shelton, big gold reminds me of the AWA belt. You're absolutely.
Yeah.
If you take the AWA championship, which Flair was from Minneapolis area, right? He was actually trained by Vernie Gagne, as we like to call him. You're exactly right. I never thought of it until he said it right here. I never thought of it. You're right. It does look like Richard Hood. Rodney, I saw the one in Atlanta on Channel 8. Daniel Lang. Here we go. Number 15 from somewhere in South America, the Conquistadors. Now I'm gonna have to ask you a question. Let me go back up here. Who was this with the 15 of the Freebirds? Let me get up here. Let me find him again. Let me see. Number 14, that's the Glen Allen Shelton. He's got Daniel's got the Conquistadors, and you've got the Freebirds on the same level. Shame. Recount. I demand a recount, I say. Number 15, Greg Valentine, Ric Flair. Honestly, think about it when you talk about the Mid-Atlantic, and even against Ole and Gene, that was awesome. With the Valentine and Flair. Tremendous. Victor Nash. I like the AWA championship belt that Larry Zbyszko held.
Yeah, that was a pretty belt.
Now, the other one, Stan Hansen took care of the other one.
and they learned a lesson like everybody else already knew. Don't mess with Stan.
Nope. Can't do it.
You can do anything you want to him. When you start messing with his money, it ain't going to turn out well for you.
Cody didn't even curse with a torn pec. Got absolutely crushed.
There you go. Emotional investment.
Exactly. Yeah, Glenn Allen, he's right. That was off the design of sure. You're absolutely. I never thought of it, but he's right. He's right. It had the one big plate in the middle with that design, and then the two at the side. Absolutely. Dr. Philbo Grice, my mama always said, if you have to cuss in wrestling, you're trying to make up for the lack of talent. You said it. I need to put that as a sign right here. You're exactly right. You are exactly right. Hammerstone. That's
Alexander Hammerstone is the MLW champion.
Oh,
great guy. Very old school mentality.
Well, I can actually watch the show because of the cussing because I don't listen to the commentary. The commentary absolutely kills me. I mean, it absolutely kills me. It's just such a turnoff. So I cut it down and then fast forward. That's okay. Jeff Dobbs, it's for the shock value. Trying to bring younger generation AEW. Unbelievable.
Well, and we've seen what lowering our moral standards has done to the world. Not just here in America, it's happening everywhere.
Richard Hood, Rodney, I like the studio setup, but wrestling was a joke. He's talking about NWA.
Well, Richard, if you hadn't watched it lately, I suggest you give it another try. I was really impressed. I watched, like I say, 4 episodes yesterday. It's really good.
This is coming up. I'm sorry, I read ahead. We'll get there in just a second. Charles Alfred, Jade Cargill, who? What is she supposed to be?
She is AEW's female version of Goldberg.
I see. Okay, Daniel Lang, and then of course Daniel's got a point. What about when Stone Cold did it?
Well, I didn't like it when he did it.
Well, as I say, there is a exception to every rule, and he was it. It fit in with what he was doing.
Well,
but when I'll tell you, a lot of what you're seeing now is trying to copy what he did.
When he did it, he didn't do it all the time, and it was only when he was in his most intense parts of his interviews and stuff that he might let something slip out a little bit. And but he wasn't over the top. There was no F words, stuff like that. That there's acceptable curse words that you can do in movies, TV, wrestling, but then majority of it really should not be. We shouldn't be R-rated in our language or X-rated. And I'm telling you, AEW has Oh, they've definitely been NC-17 with a lot of the stuff that they've had their folks saying in there.
If you remember, do you remember when Roughhouse would come with Jackie Fargo?
Mhm.
And you know, when he would get in the front of the microphone, Jackie would grab him and cover his mouth up. You can't let him talk on TV. He says cuss words on the TV. What are you talking about, Jackie? I never say it. Oh, beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. And you know, there's ways, and I wouldn't let everybody, but I would have maybe one that we beeped out so that you think about what he said. What he was using. I think it would be pretty decent. But there's always way. Like I said, there's always way. Number Jeff Dubs. That 15 ranking was a typo. They're number one. The Von Erichs, number 5. Come on, guys. Let's get 5. Oh boy. Here we go. Oh, here we go. I'm gonna take that off right there. Okay. Oh, here's another one. Eddie Dale. They don't make my list, but I understand why you have them. Tex McKenzie, Nelson Royal. When you talk about Jim Crockett Sr., you're talking about a legendary tag team against the Infernos, against Bronco Lubitsch, against Sweet Hansen, Rip Hawk. Tremendous Eddie Dale, no
Sweet
doubt.
handsome Rip Hawk, man, what a team!
And yeah, and they're not on my list because I didn't get to see. I'm sure I did when I was younger.
Same,
I just don't
same.
remember them. But and any list should have them on it. Mine particularly don't for this time around. But that does not mean they don't belong. The only two I like from Billy Corgan's NWA is Tim Storm and Nick Aldis.
Oh,
Richard,
they're great.
what's going on with Richard? What's going on with Nick Aldis? I hear that there's an issue there.
It's a work, is all it is. They're setting him up. He was supposed to wrestle. He had won whatever series of matches to where he got another NWA title shot, but then they're also doing confrontations between him and Billy Corgan, especially like on social media, because they understand how to use social media the right way. Uh, and Billy removed him from his title opportunity. Just said, "Hey, it's my discretion. I own this. You've made me mad, and you're out." And of course Nick follows that up. Now I'm gonna tell you, if this was real, you ain't getting screen time,
No, no,
and that's
no.
exactly what he's getting.
And I'm
And
gonna go ahead.
well, I just think Nick Aldis to me is probably one of uh, the best choices you can have. Now I love Trevor Murdoch. I do. I think it's a fine choice to have that belt on him right now. But Nick Aldis is a real heel. And that's what this business needs right now. And I believe he's the guy to lead the NWA in that aspect.
Well, I heard that Matt Cordona or Cordova, whatever his name is, he's on it in his way back. If he can only be as sell out as good as he thinks he is,
Yeah.
we might be all right. He's going to hand pick his next opponent. May I suggest a ring post? Go.
And Tim Storm, by the way, I talked to Tim yesterday for just a second. Uh, Man, for a guy that's not a young man anymore, he's in tremendous shape, and boy, he can go.
WWE biography D Generation X. The Generation X, I'm sorry, Sunday on AEW. Speaking of
Yep.
that, Brian Armstrong, James Road Dogg, is pitching the idea of one last match with he and the Outlaws against the Super Kick Twins. Now, he was talking about doing it against somebody else, but he said they would just beat them up and he'd make them look bad. So he decided not to do that. So did you see that story? He just want to talk about doing a reunion match against the Super Kick Twins. That
he is vying, to get on behind the scenes at AEW. He said, "I think I can help him. I think I could really turn some stuff around for him," and I believe he could. He's got a great mind, for the business. I really think that Triple H is going to eventually bring him back.
I hear though he's going to be helping with the Impact.
He is.
coming.
He's not under any kind of a contract though. He's just going up on a handshake deal.
And I saw another story where Impact is going to be going heads up using their pay per view against a live show of a TV show of AEW. I'm thinking, why is that a story, people? Why is that a story? You DVR one and watch the other. I mean, it's not a big deal. Or in my case, I'm not watching either one, so I'm not losing either way.
I haven't watched Impact in a long time. I tried watching it again a couple of years ago. I usually about every 2 to 3 years I'll try to watch, and it so disappoints me that I give up on it again. So I'm probably due for another look.
Pro Wrestling Tees, Glenn Allen Shelton.
ProWrestlingTees.com, Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. You can get our t-shirts. We've moved a few of mine this week, so y'all get on there and get your official check. Press the Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. And also, if you'll go to the Facebook page, Teespring, we have that right at the very top. All you have to do is click on that link. It'll take you. And we got all kinds of products there. We got cell phone covers. We got coffee cups. We got all kinds of stuff.
Victor Nash, Hammerstone versus Bandito. Is that right? Bandito. September 18th at MLW Super Series. Richard Hood. Jack, I'm going to take your word and watch it again. Okay. Daniel Lang. Heard a rumor that Triple H wants to reunite Beer Money, Bobby Roode, and James. I don't know.
That comes from James Storm. That doesn't come from Triple H. James Storm did an interview the other day where he said, "Hey, if they would put us together as Beer Money again, I'd be more than willing to go to WWE." Well, yeah, I'm sure you would. And I thought they were great as a tag team. I really do. I don't know. James went to NXT when Triple H was over everything. For whatever reason, they couldn't. The contract he was able to offer him, James didn't want. He didn't. He thought he could make a lot more money somewhere else, and apparently he did. So he was only there for a couple of shows. He did get over great with the crowd. They knew who James was, and supposedly Triple H left the door open. But now that was 4 or 5 years ago, and James really, I mean, he stayed busy in the business. James has made a lot of money in this business. But he doesn't have the name behind him now, the notoriety that he did that 4 or 5 years ago. So I don't know. Plus, he's not a young guy, so you're only got a shelf life of so many years, and when you're at that 40 mark in age, it's hard to put that kind of money like WWE needs to put behind people to push them for merchandise and everything else to make their money back. It's hard to do when a guy's 40 or older.
Well, I hear WrestleMania is coming up in Los Angeles. I think it's April 1st and 2nd.
Yep.
Will they have tryouts again at WrestleMania?
Yeah, I'm sure they will. They had their tryouts at SummerSlam. My understanding is that was totally for the next in line athletes with no professional wrestlers, indie professional wrestlers invited. And I also heard it didn't go very well.
I heard a lot of injuries. Yeah. This probably be an opportunity for James to come and try out at WrestleMania.
It'll take him an hour to get them boots
on. Christopher Hughes, Nelson Royal is class. He did more for professional wrestling than any ordinary fan would ever fathom, and absolutely true. We're talking about a tremendous mind for the wrestling business. Just a class act. He's absolutely right. Glenn down to Shelton. Aldis put NWA back on the map after the Jarrett years. Here we go with Christopher Hughes. I would love to see Beer Money back. Bobby Rhodes is
yeah.
Oh,
James
okay.
as well. He's there.
Okay. And well,
yeah. I did like them as a tag team.
Well, I would have put that same one, but I would have dropped the D out of it. Jeff Hobbs, Ring of Honor wasn't too bad. Bring it back. Better than some of the new marketing ideas.
I enjoyed Ring of Honor up until the COVID hit. And then when they, and I understand they didn't have a choice. Nobody did. You know, WWE, AEW, everybody was filming in those empty arenas. It was hard to get into those shows then. Ring of Honor though was too hit and miss for me. I I didn't know a lot of those guys when I skipped about a year, went back at that time, was trying to watch them. I didn't know a lot of them. I do know a few guys that were there. Um, but unless they were on, I just got to where I couldn't watch the show. And then when the crowd started coming back, they still didn't bring crowds back. You know, they were filming empty arena right up till the day that they closed the doors. I hope that Con can get a TV deal, bring it back, make it something respectable. There's a lot of great talent out there that needs the opportunity.
All right. Well, maybe we'll Ring of Honor is back on for sure. Let's see what Wendy had. I saw Wendy. Whoops. Nothing beats watching old Continental and Southeastern Championship Wrestling. Absolutely. Here's a one question before we're about to wrap it up here in just a second. But Jack, the one thing that I have noticed, and it's not just WWE, it's all organizations. They apparently see no value in the house shows. Why is that? I'm not
Uh,
talking about I'm talking about away from TV, away from the paper of the big shows. Why does the companies do not feel there's any value in a house show?
well, for years, WWE, that's where they really made a lot of their money was the house shows because you did TV one day a week, but then you still ran six more shows that week or more, and that's where all the money was generated at. But over the last 10 years, the house show gates have dropped to the point where right before COVID, there was a lot of internal talk inside WWE of dropping all house shows because they were losing money. They wasn't making money from them. So I think the emphasis um, still hasn't gone back up. Maybe it will. Maybe now that when people are more willing to get out and go to arena settings and stuff again, that might come up. But you're also dealing right now with the economy. People can't afford to go and do a lot of stuff like they did just a few years ago. So there's a
Well,
lot of factors in there.
well, even as we were growing up, the house shows began to be an afterthought. They pretty much were investing mostly in TV and then the bigger shows, and I think they're losing an opportunity to not only build a house show but make them important as well, making sure that everybody knows, hey, I can go to a house show and it's going to still be as good as I watch on TV. Something's going to happen, and to me, I think the house shows could enhance the storylines they currently doing on television.
Well, WWE was making a concerted effort to put more into their house shows. So they even had I don't remember who it was, but there was a title change just at a
Right.
house show. It wasn't, I mean, they filmed it, but it was like a one camera deal.
Right.
And so they were trying to get people back into that mind frame of, hey, just because it's not TV doesn't mean exciting things don't happen.
Sure.
But I don't think that mindset lasted very
Well, again, as and I get the idea. The one camera shoot won't work for their TV program, so they're going to have to make an investment, at least three, for those shoots. But to me, they're missing an opportunity to forward storylines. There's nothing better than to come on TV instead of showing something we'd already seen the week before on SmackDown and on Raw to say, okay, this past week we were in say, and I know they were in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and we were in Fayetteville. Let's check out what happened in Fayetteville, or have the wrestler talk about, look at Fayetteville. This is where I beat this guy. Blah blah blah. You know, that kind of
well. Maybe if Vince pays back that 19.6 million that he owes the company, they can buy some cameras.
thing. That's very possible. Very, very possible. Let's go. Let's see. Oh, right here. I'll let it get away from me here. Here we go. Jeff Dobbs. Hammerstone is a great local talent. Quit for a while until he got his passion back. Saw him win a loser leave town match a couple of months ago back in Salem, Oregon. Las Vegas beat the California for almost 400 pounder. Well, beat the California, almost a 400 pounder. Here we go. Eric Crawford, Mr. Wrestling 2, World Georgia Championship Wrestling is certainly a fan favorite. It certainly was. Tremendous, tremendous. And that's who we grew up with. Don Wiggins, hello. Welcome, Don. Jeff Hobbs power bombed him off the top rope. Go, Alexander Hammerstone. And of course, Christopher Hughes. You know, Rodney, I believe I enjoyed watching your dad more work in the Carolinas than anywhere else. Where did he love working the most? And did he ever wrestle? He actually did wrestle. When he first started out, he actually was a booker. If you don't mind, he was booking the town for Cleveland, Tennessee for Harry Thornton. Harry was the promoter in Cleveland, and actually he wrestled then. Dad loved to be in the ring no matter where he was at. He just enjoyed being in the ring. He enjoyed refereeing, and it didn't matter what town it was in, whether it was in the Carolinas. Now, I will tell you this. When he first started out and the first time he went to the Carolinas and worked for Jim Crockett Sr., he made more money than he ever thought he ever would. He made more money. In fact, he thought his check was wrong. He went to Frank Morrell, which is a friend he knew. I guess Frank worked in some of the other places, and he walked up to Frank and he said, "Hey, Frank, I think my check's wrong. I think my check's wrong." He said, "You mean it's not enough?" He said, "Let's go to Jimmy right now. We'll find out what this is all about. I'll make sure you get your money." He said, No, it's too much. He's too much." So Frank looked at all of the towns that he was in. He said, "Oh no, you were all in the big towns. That's right." They went and bought new furniture. Next week, they went and bought new furniture. It was awesome. Mickey Mayfield, when is the Monday show going to start? We have a Monday show going to start here?
No, I think we're going to have that on immediately after this show.
Oh, okay. So we're going to be at right after this, and this is where we're going to be able to talk about some of the really,
Yeah.
yeah, some good stuff there. Randy Chris, the last house show I went to was in Baltimore. It was terrible, and Randy, I think you're kind of making my point. They don't put the thought, they do not put the input they do for some of the other shows, and I think it's a missed opportunity for sure, especially being that I grew up and almost everything happened in the arenas, especially in Georgia. You had some things that you had some things that happened on television, but most everything happened in the house shows. And then they showed it on TV, and then they had to edit it to get it past TBS's censors. Don Wiggins, I have been to dozens of WA shows, TV house shows, and many indies. Some of the best I've ever seen were the indie shows. Yeah, because again, the investment. They put their time in for sure. Jeff Dobbs, the thing I like most about your show is you say it like you mean it, especially Rodney. Well, thank you. Thank you. I think that if and maybe I'd come over harsh sometimes, but I think if we try to put on some kind of act, all of you would see that 10 miles off. What you see is what you get. We don't rehearse anything. There's no script here. We just go with the flow. As the way it should be.
We turned cameras on, but for the entire time we've known each other since the mid '80s, this is the way the three of us talk to each other. This is the subjects we talk about. So you're just getting an insight into who we are as friends.
Yeah. Don Wiggins, last WWE house show I went to was Triple H versus Benoit, and it was amazing. All right. Well, and that is the final comment for the evening. We got them all in, Jack, and we did get in there. I think somebody had mentioned it. I skipped it about. It was this was a pretty good show, even without what's his name.
Yeah.
And I agree. I absolutely agree. Jack, you got anything you want to share before we go tonight?
No, appreciate everybody being here.
Wendy Harkins, let me get her in. Rodney, you've always been that way as long as yes. Well, if you ever wanted to know what I think, just ask me. I'll tell you. Frank Morrell was the French angel and a Memphis referee. He was also the spoiler. He was also
Frank worked Georgia. I was at Frank's retirement match.
Yeah, Frank Morrell is awesome, man. Awesome. We lived next door to him when we were in Charlotte. We were Nick Dictor. And so, ladies and gentlemen, as Gordon would say, our time has run out for this edition of Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. And we will see you next week. Be looking for our new Insider show that's going to be coming very shortly. We're going to be talking about things that we will not be talking about on this program because it may make some mad. It will be, I think, a paid subscription for our subscribers. And what will happen is we will talk about things, and we know the people we will be talking about won't pay because they're too cheap to pay to see what bad things we will say about them.
If you want to be remembered better, you should have acted better.
That's right. Jeff Dobb, you ain't fake for sure. Well, thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will call it quits right there. We will see you next week. And for Jack Lord, I'm Rodney West, and we'll see you on the next Pro Wrestling Inside and Out.